as you can see, or maybe not since I can't focus, but as you can see, it's got a click now. That right in the center of the screen next to the big gear is the click, and it was the pivot where it sits is just kind of, it sits on a little tube, and the screw just kind of provides a stop for it from coming off. And that screw was broken. Well, maybe I can use it without the loop. Just try to focus in here. That might work better. There we go. So anyway, this click was broken off. Here is you can see how small I'm working with here. This is the, focus, you fuck. You can sort of see where the screw is broken off in the center there. But I managed to find another 21 joule movement very cheap on eBay, which made me very happy. Let's put the loop in again. I'll give you a little bit closer up view. That's the click. It's basically the thing that ratchets. It holds this. This is under spring tension. There's a coiled spring underneath called the mainspring. And on the mainspring, on the bottom of it, there's a gear, see? And that gear engages another gear, which engages the escapement wheel, which I'm not sure I can show you. Let me look at this through my loop. Oh, here, where is it? I can get a little light on it here. So that little weird wheel kind of down at the very bottom, it's got real big teeth. That's the escape wheel. And every time the balance swings back and forth, you can sort of see the pivot a little bit. It swings the pivot back and forth. The pivot has two long tines on it, like a fork, and it's got a jeweled end on each one, and that engages each one as it swings once will engage one tooth, and this is what regulates how the power is let out of that spring. It basically is what time the watch. This is the timer. This wheel with the hairspring and the fork and the escape wheel. That's what they would call the escapement. You can see right at this angle, you can see where the hairspring peg is attached to the balance. That is called the balance cock. This part that it's the top bearing jewel is on. And then on this side of it, in the center, on the same piece, you can see kind of two little dots. Underneath those dots, there's little pegs that go down underneath, and they trap the last wind of the hairspring. The hairspring is the little wound spring that's underneath the wheel there. You can see it a little bit, and by moving that piece, you can regulate it probably about 10 seconds per day either direction, maybe, or 10. I'm not sure how far. I think it's more like 10 seconds per hour. The longer you make the spring, in other words, if you move those two towards the peg, you move them towards the peg, that makes the effective hairspring length longer and gives it a slower frequency. And if you move them the other way, it gives it a shorter length, which gives it a shorter frequency. And then when you look in a watch and you see the little plus minus, that's what you're actually moving. I don't know whether that's interesting at all, but I'll give you a comparison size to what I'm working with here. My thumb is bigger than this whole movement, but I think it'll be worth it. I've had this for a number of years. I haven't worked on it at all. I knew that it worked. I just didn't know what was going on with it. I suspected the click spring was broken, but it turned out that the click pivot screw was broken off in the bridge, and I could not get it out. So now that I know that I have it working, I will completely disassemble this thing, and we'll clean all the parts. I will remove all the jewels and use a little bit of pegwood and clean them out real well, and then I'll lubricate everything. It doesn't take a lot, and we'll go from there. The jewels are the bearings in a watch, by the way. When they say jewels, they're not talking about diamonds. They are usually talking about rubies. As you can see, these are rubies. They're probably artificial rubies, but they're rubies. They don't wear when you rub metal on them. They're harder than the metal, and if you've got good burnished pivots and a little bit of oil in them, it keeps the watch from wearing out. It's a very smooth surface. It's a nice movement. Nothing real special about it. I stole the mainspring bridge, or the click bridge, or whatever you want to call it, out of another Helbros watch. Where is it? This one here. Slightly different design. The bridge looked the same. This one is a day date. This one has a broken balance pivot, and it's not worth doing any work to whatsoever. But I got it for super cheap. And so now that I've got this thing working, I will reassemble the other watch. Let me show you, just for kicks. This is the face of that watch. It's an absolutely beautiful shape. I mean, the loom is dead, which is not surprising. It's very old. But I love the shape of all this stuff. I may re-loom the hands. Matter of fact, I probably will, but I'm not going to mess with the dial. I may not loom the hands. We'll see. Anyway, that is the watch. Here is the case that it goes in. It's pretty nice. Nicely made. It's not a really expensive watch, but it's a good movement. I bought it, I think, on eBay about, geez, it must be 8-10 years now. And that's the deal. That's what I've been doing with my spare time, just messing around with this stuff and making my eyesight horrible. That's what I'm wearing today. It's a Chinese copy of a Seiko Miyota movement, 21,000 beats per hour or something like that. Pretty nice little watch. I have it on a leather NATO. The loom is crap, like most Chinese watches, but still, it's pretty cool. It's nice having, and it's automatic. It's nice having a watch like this. The loom works okay for about an hour, which is as long as I need it. It's got a ceramic bezel, so that's not going to fade. Very readable. I like it. Very cheap. Looks good on one of those British Army, you know, the black and gray stripe NATOs. It looks really good on one of those too, but I like it on the leather better. It feels better too. Anyway, a size comparison here. Not sure what this actually measures. I suppose I could find out for you, but it's almost too much trouble. Let's see if I can find one of my calipers here. Here. Now, let's see here. Looks like about about 220 millimeters. Not very much. 220, 22. What I'm thinking. Anyway, pretty happy. I don't think anybody will ever watch this, but I got it working.